Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. It's JMA Friday, so as always on a Friday we're having a look at the weather coming up with Japanese and CFS V2 models. It's going to take us more or less to the end of November, so we're going to go through the final month of the autumn with this update. It's been a very dry autumn so far, quite an unusual autumn really. Haven't had much in the way of westerlies, very little zonal weather, so consequently we've not seen much in the way of stormy conditions. Been very few rain bands coming down across the country either. Just been very quiet, very dry, and although it started off really warm in September, it's been getting progressively colder as we've moved through October. So we'll see whether this continues into November, whether it's forecast to continue anyway. Now, bringing on with that, just to say about the ads, this video adds most of the pages. They own the content when you watch my close back up again, does help to pay for gasworthies.com. More importantly, next week, the Christmas shop is opening. Actually, the Amazon shop is open all year round, but I don't plug it in the videos except around Christmas. And from the 1st of November, on Tuesday, we're going to start the Christmas updates, and to celebrate, we're going to open the Christmas shop as well. So if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon, just hold off a few more days and then you'll be able to do it via Gaz Weathervids. I'll talk you through how you do it on the first update, first Christmas update that we're going to do on Tuesday, 1st of November. So the Christmas updates are getting underway, video updates on Tuesday, and also you can start doing your Christmas shopping at Amazon on Tuesday as well. So just hold off a few more days on that. If that's all I've got to talk about, I think I better get on with video. Oh, just to say about on Wednesday, 2nd of November, we're doing a live event in the evening. That'll be starting around 7 o'clock. Myself and Quantum will be talking about the weather patterns that we had previous autumn, what could be ahead for the winter, and have a look at a couple of long-range models. No doubt we'll be doing a bit of forecasting for bonfire night as well, for your fireworks parties, and we'll be taking your questions. That'll be here at the website on the 2nd of November. That is on Wednesday next week. Right, that's all the announcements done. Let's get on with the update. And we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomalies from the JMA model, broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will be taking us from the 28th day through to the 4th of November. Red, orange, yellow, bright colours, it extrapolates to high pressure, and blue extrapolates to low pressure. So for the coming week, we've got above average heights to the north and to the west, and coming down over the British Isles. There's a deep trough up to the northeast, which you would have thought is bringing the wind flow down from a northwesterly direction. So that looks cool and probably very dry as well. I think it's a fairly good representation of the conditions we've got in the coming week. It's transitional, so at the moment it is pretty mild actually, with the high pressure more centred to the south. But as you get through to next week, the high pressure goes to the northwest, and that does bring us colder conditions. I think we'll have night frost getting going as we go through next week. This is week 2 anomaly. This takes us from the 4th through to the 11th of November. This looks cold. We've got high pressure, above average height centred around Greenland, and also going down into the northern Atlantic. Trough of low pressure through Scandinavia, also extending down into central parts of Europe and into the east of England. And the upshot with that is, I think that would be turning the winds into the northeast. So that looks cold. You'd certainly be expecting night frost with that. You'd probably be expecting a risk of wintry showers in northern parts of the country as well. So it looks pretty cold there for the week from the 4th through to the 11th of November. And then weeks 3 and 4, which is the 11th through 25th of November, looks like this. We have the above average height still there across Greenland and Iceland. They extend back, that centre of them is over the North Pole, so definite hints of northern blocking. The trough is weaker across Scandinavia and northeastern Europe, but it still is indicated to be there. So very little change there, I would have thought. The flow is still likely to be coming in from a sort of northerly, northeasterly, maybe easterly type direction. Notice this trough that's coming out of Newfoundland into the Atlantic. That might start to undercut this blocking feature. So I've got all this blocking up here. This trough in the Atlantic might start stage and undercut, could bring some very wet weather in towards the Mediterranean. If it comes northwards, it's going to try and dislodge this block. And we'd have to watch out for that in the second half of November. If we have the Atlantic trying to dislodge a blocking feature over the North Pole, we might see some battleground scenarios with that, which could either bring a lot of heavy rain, possibly could bring some wintry conditions, maybe some snowfalls there. If we do get the two air masses, the cold air mass, the mild air mass, fighting and engaging with one another. Not a huge amount to go and say that's what's going to happen, but just keep that at the back of your mind that it might be a possibility. Let's see how the temperatures and precipitation anomalies are looking for the next month. So this is mid-latitude view. The British Isles are just here, the top right-hand corner of the chart, as you are looking at it. So, mind you, the 500 millimetre high anomaly we've got through the coming week. The ridge is generally over and to the west-northwest of the UK, which we thought is sending the flow into a northwest-southeast type pattern like that. Temperature anomalies are actually coming out significantly milder than average. Now, that's okay for where we are right now. We are milder than average at the moment. I'd like to stay that way over the weekend. Next week, it turns progressively cooler as winds go into the northwest. So, that's transitional. It looks fairly decent, that anomaly where we are right now. We'll get through to next week. That will be colder, perhaps quite substantially so, than the model is forecasting there. The precipitation anomaly looks more or less drier than average across the whole of the country. You would expect that, a lot of ridging going on over and eventually to the west of the UK. We go through to week 2, which is before through to the 11th of November. We've got the above average heights of high pressure out to the north and west of the country, below average heights to the east and to the southeast of the country. The upshot is that the flow is going into the north, into the northeast. So you'd expect a colder than average week there, and the model is more or less going colder than average. Now, for Scotland and Northern Ireland, it's closer to norm, but for England and Wales, you can't make it out that well on these charts, but for England and Wales, it is colder than average, and most parts of Europe going colder than average as well. As I explained with these seasonal models, they tend to be biased on the milder side of things. So to get an anomaly going colder than average on these charts indicates it could be really quite a cold week there, because you would think that model is probably overestimating the temperatures. So we might be sort of down there really around to maybe getting close to 3 degrees colder than average if the model is right on its pressure setup. That does look a cold week from the 4th through to 10th of November, certainly with night frost, possibly with wintry showers as well. Precipitation still more or less drier than average, although it is going wetter to the south and across many central parts of Europe as well. Of course, with cold temperatures, those that above average precipitation is likely to be falling as sleet or snow across many parts of Europe by then, I would have thought. And then go through to week 3, weeks 3 and weeks 4, which is the 11th through 25th of November. You can't see the North Pole and Greenland, but it's up here, and we still have above average heights there. Remember, we thought the Atlantic might be starting to stage a little bit of an attack of this blocking feature, so maybe we see the Atlantic trying to come in and dislodge those colder temperatures, which might lead to either heavy rain or maybe wintry weather. Temperature anomalies, they're going back to average or milder than average. Again, very dubious about that. It's a 2-weekly anomaly, so what could happen, for example, is that week 3 might be colder than average. Week 4, where the Atlantic comes back, might turn a bit milder, and so that's skewing the 2-week anomaly a little bit. But overall, with the idea of northern blocking very much being in place, I'm very dubious about whether we will be milder than average there from the 11th to the 25th of November. The precipitation is returning, so it backs up the idea that the Atlantic might be staging a little bit of a comeback. So precipitation is going a little bit above average, particularly across central parts of the country. Quite interestingly, maybe the battle lines are drawn with the weather for doing something like that. Very difficult to say on these charts in terms of that kind of detail. But we get through the second half of November, and possibly it's trying to turn milder and more unsettled. But there's a lot of northern blocking, so I would expect at some point there's a battle going on, which could lead to wintry conditions. Overall, I would say this is quite a cold update from today's JMA. Have a look at CFS V2, see what that's showing for the coming months. So these are 500 millibar height anomalies going from the 28th through to the 3rd of November. They are broken down into week pairs. Very good agreement with what the JMA is doing for the coming week. Ridge of high pressure over and to the west-northwest of UK. Extends back to northern blocking. Trough of low pressure in the northeast of Europe, and the flow going from the northwest. So we start off fairly mild where we are now, get through to next week, and it's likely to be turning colder. Week 2, which is before through to the 10th of November, again, very good agreement between the JMA CFS. We've got blocking out to the north, to the northwest. We've got this trough of low pressure in across Scandinavia. The flow, presumably, doing something like that. Also got this below average height, or these below average heights to the south of the blocking. That's trying to bring the Atlantic in. That probably runs through Spain into Mediterranean, I would have thought, the energy from this feature. So I wouldn't have thought you have to worry too much about that for the 4th through to 10th of November. Overall, I would say that's a cold week again. Both these models would agree to be cold for that week. And there is a chance, certainly of night frost, maybe some wintry showers in northern and eastern parts of the country. Week 3, which is the 11th through 17th of November, shows heights rising across central eastern parts of Europe. Trough of low pressure is in the Atlantic now. So I think we're beginning to turn the flow more into the west-southwest there. That looks like the Atlantic's coming back, turning more unsettled, probably turning a bit milder as well. And then the week 4 anomaly, which is the 18th, 24th of November. Quite an odd looking chart this. Got above average heights across Eastern Europe and Western Russia. Still hints of a bit of northern blocking around Greenland. And then quite what's going on elsewhere, I'm not sure. But maybe the flow is going a bit like that. So that might be a bit colder. And still perhaps a bit on the unsettled side through that week. There's not enough to go on really there to say what is going on with that one. The temperature anomalies for the coming week looks warmer than average. Bear in mind that's starting where we are now, gets colder as we move through into next week substantially. So week 2 comes out a little bit cooler than average in most parts of Europe, turning colder than average as well. Expect temperatures to be colder than that suggests for that week 2 anomaly, 4th to the 10th of November. I'd knock a degree or so off that anomaly, and that brings us down to around a couple of degrees colder than average. Week 3 goes milder than average. Probably makes sense based on what the model's trying to do, which is return the Atlantic. And then week 4 also looks milder than average. So I don't think the CFS, despite that week 2 anomaly, don't think the CFS is as cold as the JMA. And then finally, precipitation. The coming week looks significantly milder than average. We go through to week 2, that also looking drier than average. Week 3 is a bit wetter than average in the southern part of the country, near normal elsewhere. Possibly backs up the idea that there's a little bit of a battle taking place there. So the Atlantic tries to dislodge the cold air and the blocking. And then week 4, no real signal for that week. I'm not sure the model really knows what to do in week 4. So it looks like we're in for a lot more dry weather as going through into November, although maybe hinting that later on it turns more unsettled. Reading between the lines, I think the first part of the month, first half of the month, is potentially looking quite cold. So there should be a fair amount of seasonable weather around with night frost, possibly wintry showers. All gets more complicated in the second half of the month. Looks like the Atlantic will have a go at dislodging the blocking and the cold air. That might set us up for a bit of a battle in the second half of the month. And depending on how the blocking and the cold air holds out, or whether it does hold out against the Atlantic, don't rule out the chance of some snow in the second half of November. Well, that's my interpretation of what models are showing anyway. As ever, it's highly experimental, so it's not to be relied upon. The charts are there, so might as well look at them, but don't take it too seriously. Tomorrow we'll be doing a weekend forecast, and we did look at weather the week ahead. We will be predicting our first widespread night frost of the season, I would have thought, for weekend forecast tomorrow. So come back for that, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.